G'day, what was parked in the driver's car park at the French Grand Prix? An interesting range of vehicles, a couple of drivers rode bicycles, there was even a Dacia Duster. The French Grand Prix is held at the Paul Ricard circuit. It's right up the top of a mountain. The drivers have to drive to the track or ride to the track, although in 2021, a lot of the drivers stayed almost next to the paddock, and they could walk, as Seb and Sergio Perez are seen here, walking into the paddock, having some fun with one of those bucket hats from last year. Let's start off with Lewis Hamilton. He came in this EQC 400. This is an electric vehicle, and as such, there's no engine noise. Only takes about 40 minutes for a full charge. Priced around £70,000 in the UK, and this is the exact same car that Lewis used in Spain. His teammate George Russell was in this car, a GLE 63S, a 63S for number 63. This is a V8 bi-turbo. This car is very quick off the mark, 0 to 103.8 seconds, and this is a big car. The car park at Le Castellet is right next to the swipe gate entrance, and thankfully each driver has a specific park. But the interesting thing was that on the Thursday they had all of the drivers lined up in one section here, and all of the team principals together at the end of that route. But come the next day, they changed that order to team principal, 2 drivers, team principal, 2 drivers, etc., all the way down the ranking. Who got the closest park to the paddock? Well, it was Ross Brawn, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, and Stefano Domenicali. And those signs do make it very easy for me to work out who's driving what. And these are definitely the largest signs we see throughout the year. And they also go to the detail of having each driver's number in the same font on the sign as they do on the driver's car. That's a nice touch. Max Verstappen, was he in a Honda? Yes, he was. He was in a Honda Civic Type R. The interesting thing was, though, that Max actually flew in on the Thursday by helicopter. He has a private jet, which could have landed at that airstrip right next to the track, but the landing fees are horrendous, I'm told. And as he was coming from Monaco, he would have had to have driven to Nice, got in his plane, and then landed a short time later. So it was easier for him to be picked up in a helicopter in Monaco and taken straight to the track, where one of the Red Bull drivers picked him up and brought him to the paddock. Sergio Perez did not require a helicopter. Here he is in his Honda Civic Type R, driving that pearl blue-grey colour. This is the exact same car that he drove in Imola and also in Spain. So once again, like the Mercedes, these cars are moved around from certain races to certain races. In the opener, I said there were 3 Ferraris. Who was driving them? We had Charles Leclerc in this Roma. Often drives a Roma, and his teammate Carlos Sainz was in this Roma. And you can see here that Charles' car was actually from a dealership in Monaco, while Carlos's car has come from a French dealership. The third Ferrari, was that driven by Mattia Binotto? No, it wasn't. In fact, it was driven by another driver. But you'll have to wait for a few more minutes to find out who was driving that one. But it's a cracker. Daniel Ricciardo was driving an X5, a BMW. In fact, both drivers were supposed to be driving an X-Drive 45e BMW. However, there was a hiccup at the airport with Lando, and he ended up driving this Audi Quattro, which looks a little bit to me like a family holiday car. Fernando Alonso in a people mover, the Espace Initial, a very spacious car, very comfortable. And again, this car is driven from the manufacturing headquarters in France to various races and provided to the drivers. Sometimes it rolls up at the airport and the drivers jump in and drive. Other times they leave it at the hotels for the drivers to use from the hotel to the track and back. And on the subject of Fernando Alonso, I recently offered 50 prints hand-signed by the 2-time world champion. Well, I can tell you they sold out in 3 days. If you want to get advance notice of upcoming collaborations I'm doing with F1 drivers, please head to kimillman.com now, head to my shop, click on the signed driver prints page and register your interest, and you'll get first notification. Esteban Ocon was in the exact same car with the lovely Alpine logos on the back, and last night I was having a drink downstairs here at the Kempinski Hotel in Budapest, and I saw 3 or 4 of these cars roll through the driveway. Some larger, and obviously they're team cars, but once again with that same Alpine livery on it. And that's done in vinyl. Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly were both driving Honda Civic Type Rs, and this is the car that they are predominantly using when they come to the track. Yuki Tsunoda's was registered in Germany, and this was the same car that he drove in Spain. And Pierre Gasly also had a car that he'd driven earlier this year, in a different colour obviously, and he was dropped off at the gates, as a lot of the drivers were on the Friday, Saturday and Sunday, because most of the drivers parked in the driver's car park on the Thursday because there were very few fans about, and they could get into the paddock without having to stop every metre or so. But that all changed on Friday, Saturday and Sunday, when probably anywhere from 30 to 60 people were assembled out there, and it just wasn't convenient for them to park and walk, so they were dropped off right at the paddock entrance, and drivers like Lewis and Pierre Gasly, amongst others, would go and then sign autographs for those people who were assembled behind ropes. Lance Stroll is Mr. Consistent when it comes to what he drives to the track. He was driving this green Aston Martin DBX. His bay was right next to his teammate Sebastian Vettel, and at one point I went out there and I saw this car in that bay, a Dacia Duster, and I thought, well, that's a bit unusual. He's driving some very simple sort of car. I had a chat with Britta, his PR manager, and said, oh, he's driving a Dacia Duster. She said, no, he's riding his bike. It turns out that that car was being driven by his trainer, Mark Arnold, who wasn't obviously staying in a motorhome with Seb, so Seb would ride his bicycle into the track, and by doing that he could get in quicker. He wasn't mobbed by autograph and selfie hunters as he got into the paddock. What about Nicholas Latifi? He was in an Audi Quattro. Now, he's had a couple of Audis this year. This was the model he was driving at this race, and his teammate Alex Albon actually drove his own car from Monaco. This is his AMG Mercedes A45S. Mercedes promotes the AMG A-Class models as the ideal point of entry to the world of Mercedes AMG, as well as absolute peak performance. And if you remember back to my Silverstone What the Drivers Drove video, I mentioned there that he arrived in his trainer's own personal car, but on the weekend the roles were reversed, with his trainer coming in with Alex in his car. What about the Haas drivers? Traditionally, Kevin Magnussen drives something big. He was in a BMW X5 40D, white in colour. But his teammate Mick Schumacher was on a motorcycle. Now, I've photographed Mick a lot on his MT-09 Yamaha motorbike coming to the track, but this race he came in a different model with blue wheels. Now, I've looked back through my photos and I can't see that he's ridden that bike prior. So I'm figuring it's a new one. I could be well wrong, but it's a very impressive looking piece of kit. And this logo on the fuel tank got me. I've done a little bit of research, but I couldn't find out what it was. I have no doubt that one of you will be able to shed some light on it. That leads us to our final two drivers, and I'm still yet to mention who was driving that third Ferrari. I'll tell you now, it's Valtteri Bottas in an F8 Tributo. What a beautiful car this was. Valtteri actually rode his bicycle to the track on a number of days, and I had him down on my list here as a bike rider. But on the Sunday, maybe Saturday evening, I walked out into the driver's car park, and parked in his bay was this magnificent car. Now that he doesn't drive for Mercedes, I imagine he's okay to be seen in something like this at a track. How much is a Ferrari F8 Tributo?
Here's what I found.
Valtteri's teammate came in an Alfa Romeo, and this was the model. Now, I've not heard of this model and done a little bit of research on the website. Looks pretty impressive. It's the first car to use blockchain-based NFT validation. It makes Amazon services even more powerful, offering more benefits. What is that? The marketing speak for something clever, I guess. But that's the second time I've seen that car used this year. He drove it at the last race, but I didn't do a driver's drove video for that race because virtually every driver drove pretty much what they drove the race before, and there was hardly any variety. But I'm certainly glad that you've stuck through to the nearly end of this video. Some of you, I understand, have not yet subscribed, and that comes as a great shock to me. So here's your chance to hit the subscribe button. Also like the video, that's always appreciated. And become a member for a whole host of extra benefits, like wallpapers every month, and even raw images that you photo people can edit. If you head to kimelman.com and click on my shop, you'll find things like wall art, large format pictures that can go on your home or office wall, F1 photo books, high quality prints signed by F1 drivers, and even a whole range of merchandise. And for my best images live from the track, head to Instagram and search @KimIllman. Thanks for watching, and stay passionate. What else is on there? Fucking hell.